And part of what WWE was able to do, I think, also showed aspects of Matt Hardy without fully taking what he was doing and what he provided WWE with. So I think it's homage in a very small way, but it also shows the ingenuity and creativity as well as intelligence of Matt Hardy himself.
Yeah, and I think one of the special things about Matt Hardy is while he's been able to reinvent himself, he's always been Matt Hardy. Mm-hmm. He hasn't, all due respect to Charles Wright, but he wasn't Papa Shango, then Kama. He was Matt Hardy as one of the Hardy Boys, or he was an enhancement guy and got over. He was in the Hardy Boys and got over. He was version 2.0 or whatever it was and got over. He got fired, then got over. Then he went and became Big Money Matt and got over. And that could have lasted him a long time. He could have went with Big Money Matt for a while. And he's like, no, I want to do this thing that might ruin my entire career, but I'm going to do it anyway. And he did the Broken thing, and it was really good. Then they did a nostalgia run with the Hardy Boys, and he got over doing that too. And I think that's where we go back to versatility. Like, everybody knows. And he told me last year that he's just got like 2 more gimmicks ready to go that he thinks will get over big time too.
And that shows the ingenuity, once again, of Matt Hardy. And I think more wrestlers need to take some notes in the notebooks that we're supposed to have, because that is how you have a long career without killing yourself by doing 18 super kicks, taking 5 chair shots unprotected to the head, doing Canadian destroyers on the ring apron to the floor through a flaming table covered in tabs.
Have you ever done a Canadian destroyer?
A girl that was a lot smaller than me was trying to do it as a finisher when I was still very green, and I kept messing it up and like almost dying. So then I was like, nope, not doing it, because just the height difference was so different that it was just throwing, like, she's 5'1" and I'm 5'7". So it was just like very like, and then doing the whole flip-de-doo thing, the timing was never right. And I was so green. So I just never bothered with something like that. And Jerry Lynn actually told me years later, he's like, when you aren't comfortable with something, don't do it, because that will most likely end up being the thing that could end your career or kill you. And he references, something that happened to him that he wasn't comfortable doing and ended up changing his whole life.
Oh yeah. And that's a thing that I definitely think young wrestlers should take advice on. And they shouldn't feel ashamed about it either. If you don't feel safe doing something, no matter how basic it is, just nix it. Triple H says that he won't do the ring post spot where you go between the top and the second rope. He said that he just can't do it, and he doesn't ever feel comfortable doing it, so he doesn't do it as much. But meanwhile, you see Braun Strowman, twice his size. He runs and goes through there all the time. It's just a matter of what people are comfortable with. And it's funny. I think a lot of people don't understand the difference in what height does, like you mentioned. John Moxley told me that he stopped doing his dirty deeds, the original finish, like the headlock driver, because he would like do it on Randy Orton, and Randy was so much taller than him that it just wouldn't look good and it wouldn't work. So he was like, I got to think of something else. I don't feel safe doing this.
And at least he actually had enough common sense, because some people get so into their own ego that they're like, oh, well, and do the stuff anyway. When I decided years ago to start doing my own variation of a tombstone pile driver, of course, there were girls that, weren't comfortable taking it. And I never, gave them heat for that or anything. Like, hey, if you're not comfortable taking it, that's okay. And, I found out ways to pick them up into it, but then turn it into other things. And that's why you always have to have more than one finisher. I'm not saying have like 5 to 10 finishers, but you need a finisher that can make sense, that you can hit on anyone, but you also need something that you can have just in case somebody can't do your finisher. You should always have a backup, just like wrestlers need to. I always stress that if you have a specialty move that's one of your known signature moves, you should know like 2 to 3 ways how to get into it differently and out of it differently. So that way you can use it more, and it has more longevity in your matches to tell different stories and whatnot, because not everybody can do the same stuff.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I thought I was going to be this crazy high flyer when I got into wrestling. Yeah. What an epic fail. I talked about this on a previous podcast, and it was like, oh, honey, no. What were you thinking? And that's when I was like, how stupid were you, Taeler? I mean, you have all this martial arts experience with Taekwondo. Why are you not using that? Why are you trying to do these flips that like scare you? It wasn't the height that scared me. I'm not afraid of heights at all. It was the flipping in motion part that really scared me because of timing. And with my Taekwondo experience, we're always taught to stay on our feet. So to actively climb up somewhere and then flip and all this other stuff when I'm supposed to stay on my feet was very awkward to me. So I was like, yeah, no, but I can take other people's, flying stuff, and that's just fine. So I think it's really cool that, people like John Moxley would be like, yeah, I don't really feel like doing this. I don't think it's very safe. Let's not do that.
You needed that high flyer ring at the Performance Center, that padded one that bounces.
Mm-mm.
That's what you needed.
No, I saw too many accidents early on in training. I saw a girl pop her entire orbital bone to where it looked like a cartoon where it looked like her eye was just going to come out like a slinky. She was trying to do Lisa Marie Varen's flip out from the apron, flip in, and up and over, flip in, landing in the leg drop. Yeah. And somehow her head ended up underneath the bottom rope and smashed her face. So that was one flip-de-doo thing that I was like, ugh. And then I was in a match one time, I think in Chicago, and a girl who's now in WWE actually, so obviously she ended up being fine, but she was doing a basic house show dive where she goes through the middle and top rope like this and you push off the person and whatever. Well, something weird happened. I don't know if it was the ropes were too loose, whatever. Well, her feet caught when she was already through. And she went, and her whole face was just wrecked, like stitches, broken bones. Her face ended up missing the padding on the side of the ring entirely and hit the metal frame. So it literally was,
no way.
Yeah. And then I saw somebody they climbed up to the top when I was still a fan. This was like a month before I started training to be a wrestler. So this was 2006. They climbed up the outside to the top turnbuckle and they did a flipping corkscrew moonsault to the outside onto the floor. And the person missed the catch. And so the person landed on their feet, but they landed cockeyed, like their left foot landed on the padding, but the right foot landed with the heel down and the toes up, and it missed the padding entirely and hit concrete, shattered the whole entire foot, and you just saw them go down. I saw so many things that it was like,
there was, I